Hello. So this is the Drupal usability meeting for March 19th, 2019, and we have a bunch of stuff with media and there will be outs. Start, Sean.
Okay, cool. Sean, you're already sharing your screen? Man, you're fast. So before I start the time box, I just want to say that we went UI complete yesterday for those who don't know. And thank you to everybody in this call who was involved in that. This is a really big milestone. So from the heart, yeah, we just have a couple of things we want to ask you. So Sean, take it away.
Yeah, sure. So the issue we want to show you is issue 3033653, and it's an invalid argument exception when adding a reference field without any media types installed. So when you install Drupal without the standard profile, you don't get any media types by default. And the issue could then be, because we introduced the new media library state object, which requires you to have media types in the URL, which you don't have at the moment yet. So you get an error, which is something we can easily fix. Only the question is, how should we fix it? And currently, we have 2 patches. And the first patch just checks for the available media types, and it just shows you a message where normally the field widget should be, and it says there are no media types available for this field. The message is probably something we could talk about. And the other patch, and I'm not sure if there are screenshots there. No, I don't think so. So in the other patch, we just hide this entire box. So this specific field, and I can show you what it looks like in an actual installation. So for example, you have the field settings for the media field in an article node type, and you have the default value, and it tries to render the widget here. And normally you should see the open button, but instead we just show you this message right now.
Yeah, my question would be, how do you even get to this point? Like, it should stop you from even creating the media field with no media types attached, in my mind.
I mean, it's an entity reference field, and you can create those fields regardless of whether you have anything that even can be referenced. And I think that's always been the case. We could disable we could make it so that the widget is not used if there's nothing like that. But this is a limitation of, I think, entity reference fields. Are you even Sean?
What about? I'm sorry. What about simply saying you still need to set up the media types for this field? Because that's the message at this point, right? That they still need to establish that.
So when you get to this step, there's a second catch. So let's say you have configured your site, and for some reason you deleted all your media types, and you have a field, because that's exactly what I did right now. I have this installation running, and I just deleted all my media types, and the field is just configured and working. It's in here right now. And yeah, so there could be other ways where, for other reasons, why all the media types get deleted. So it could be a fresh install, but it also could be that you've deleted all your media types.
And yeah, okay. I would emphasize that this is an existing quirk of entity reference fields, but the reason it's particularly nasty in media library is because, you know, it's kind of got the assumption that you have at least one media type that can be referenced by the field. And if you don't, you get this really horrible exception. Whereas if you did this with, say, an auto-completing text field, you would just get no results for anything you search. So the other widgets for entity reference would degrade a lot more gracefully than this does. And that's kind of the core of the issue, is how do we degrade gracefully?
So I think Ian's suggestion was good, which is tell people how to fix their problem. And then on this screen, which is for content authors, and I don't know if we can do 2 different things, though, one for site builders and one for content authors. But for content authors, ideally, I think they would not even see the field at all, because there's nothing they can do about it.
I think the default value and the actual widget they're both using the same code.
Okay.
I think that that sounds what Angie just suggested sounds technically feasible to me, because we can check for permission. Like if you have permission to configure the field, then obviously you can go do that, and we can give you an actionable message. And if you don't have permission, we could just hide it entirely. So that's one option.
Or you could give everyone's favorite message: please ask a site administrator for help.
Please call Root.
Yeah, well, that might be a better idea than hiding it, because I could imagine being very confused if there's no message at all and nothing is available.
That's fair.
Yeah, so I think check access and either give a link to the add media type page or whatever it's called, or else say call for help.
So we could then just show the message there are no media types available for this field, because for content authors, there's really nothing they can do about it. Or can we just make it that we hide the field for content authors, and if you have access to edit the field, then we show the widget with a link and the better message?
No, Rain's point is good. You don't want to just up and hide it from people, because if you did exactly the steps you just did, so there was a media field sitting here just fine and dandy on the article page every other time content authors come here, and all of a sudden it's missing, they're not going to know what the heck is going on. So it's better to show the field with a message than to hide it. But the message to go and configure media types makes absolutely no sense for anyone but a site builder.
Well, what about if we potentially check the permissions? Like, we always show a message in this scenario, and then if you have permission, we can say, go configure the field. And if you don't have permission, we could say something like, please contact your site administrator, or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I'd still say it's better to just not even let people get into this situation. So if there's anything that can be done on that end, that's the much better way to solve it.
I think this same problem exists for taxonomy and like all other entity reference.
Yeah, because it is an entity reference problem. It's sort of an inherited thing.
Yeah, and it doesn't even let you save this screen, because media type is a required field here, and you don't have any options. And there's another issue to solve that. But
no, good. I don't want them to submit this. Oh, good. They should
but the field is already saved.
Yeah. Okay. Then I guess the validation coming later. It's like, don't let them delete the last media type then, or whatever.
So another question is the blank space for the default value the right place to put that message, or should we try to put it someplace else? I guess the default value is where the exception was being generated, and so that's what we're looking at now.
I think we have a related issue here, and that's be more helpful when there's no bundle to choose from. Okay. So this is the more generic issue to solve that problem, I think. And like the immediate issue we have right now is that it just throws an invalid argument exception. So we want this like a quick fix for the fact that we expect media types to be there in our widget, while technically there could be none.
I think I like so far the idea of just showing a message and have it, be as actionable as possible given the permissions of the person who's looking at it.
So that would at least be the quick fix for now. And then there is this follow-up or like more generic issue for all entity reference fields in general.
Just for the recording, can you read out that issue number?
Yes, this issue is 3033652. Is that like acceptable if we just improve the message, like there are no media types available for this field, please contact the site administrator for content authors, and for site builders it would be there are no media types available for this field, configure your media types here or something.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Yeah, and we don't have to get too hung up on the language, because I think we can change labels all the way up to RC. So yeah. I think the quick fix is more important, and if we want to bike shed the wording later, we could do that in a follow-up.
Here.
Yeah, and there's like when you get to this situation, you already done something. Well, no, if you installed with a non-standard profile, that's probably not a weird situation. Anyway, I think we have enough information to at least do a quick fix for this particular issue, and then we can bike shed more on the more generic issue later, I guess.
Okay, great.
Ah, perfect. 15 minutes. Boom.
Was
Next.
that the only issue to review from you guys?
This was our most important issue. The rest can wait, and we have a very busy schedule, so I won't take up any more time.
Yep, we done.
Okay, thanks so much, you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right, layout builder team.
Sure. I think me and Emily are going to present issues. Emily, did you want me to go first, or you want to go first?
I think that the issue I was going to present was removed from our list, so I think.
Alrighty. Okay, so I'm presenting 2 and possibly 3 issues. So the first one is the highlight issue, which I've presented before. I'll put it in chat. The issue number is 2994909. I will share my screen. And for refresher, people who weren't here previously, this issue is about highlighting the active element. So when you open up the off-canvas tray and you're editing this block, then we have this block highlighted. If you're adding a section, we highlight the add section. If you add a block, we highlight this. What's changed from previous reviews? I think the only thing that has changed is we wanted to sort of get feedback on the colors here, and there's a slight filter, I think, on making this a little bit different background. And why we didn't do this before is because we didn't have a I think this is why Emily might know differently, is that recently we added a white background to the layout builder. It's always, in the demo, it's been a white background, but we actually, now it's not just from the theme. We actually, so independent of your theme, there's going to be a white background on the layout builder. And we have these new colors here, which used to not be. So the blue here is not changed in this issue. It's just we have a new blue border here. So now, before we weren't really free to choose a color for the border because we didn't really know what the background would be for the layout builder itself. So in a separate issue that has changed. And so now we wanted to change the border of the active thing to be similar to go in line with the outside border there. And we're more free to make the filter on the highlighted thing because we know what the background is going to be. Emily, is that your understanding as far as like the color changes?
Well, the color was highlighting black, but this color change was made to line the colors up with the dash borders that are already around the regions. Okay. So since the dash border was gray, it was changed to a gray border, and then on the dash border for blocks, that was changed to the blue border because the border was already blue. So
the border's always been blue. The dashed one.
Exactly. It's been dashed blue, so now it's changed to solid blue and it's active, and then the other one is dashed gray. So when it's active, now it's solid gray.
Okay. So yeah. All right. So yeah. To match the existing borders that already are there, the color-wise. I think that's all we had to review, or that's the only change since the last time we talked about it. Anybody have feedback, or if anybody's familiar with the issue, if I missed anything?
So let me see if I have this straight. We have blocks and we have sections. Is there anything else that can be outlined?
Nope. So there's either the
there's an existing section or an add section. So
okay, actually
treated differently.
Yeah. If I add a section that's configurable, so the one column one is not configurable, but for this one here, I'm configuring this section. So we have add a new section, configure existing section, configure an existing block, or add a new block.
Okay, so we have sections and blocks, and we have existing ones, and we have add ones. So whenever you're adding something, it gets a solid border, whether it's a block or a section.
And whenever you're configuring it.
And whenever you're configuring it. And blocks get blue borders, and sections get gray or black borders?
Yeah, and so they get the border that matches the border that they already have. So an existing section has this blue dotted line. And when I configure it, it matches that just solid. A new section has a dotted gray line. And when I add that, it matches that just solid.
Okay,
so,
and an existing block has?
Existing block has, it doesn't have a border per se, but its border is basically on a middle one. Well, they would have the border of the section that they're within. So this middle one here sort of has a border. You could think of it as, or one of this one has is bordered on two sides by the section border. And the top one would be bordered on three sides by the section border. So we just keep the color of the border that's already around it.
Yeah, so before we got approval on the call for the dark gray border that was around it, and the only change that happened since was to change the colors to match the sections that are surrounding them.
I think it makes sense. Oh, go ahead, Rainey.
Oh, yeah. So I was just going to make sure that I understand. So the difference between the gray and the blue is telling the user if it already existed or if it's something that's new. Is that correct?
The gray designates a new space for a section, and the blue is the block container.
Okay. And is there another indicator? I think I saw text in there indicating that, but not once the block already exists. So we're actually, in this case, you're actually relying on color itself to relay that information. Is that correct?
Sorry, relay on color to
so so in a way, aside from the add buttons that are there, we're actually, this interface is relying on the color, the gray versus the blue, in order to relay the information of whether it's a section or a block.
I wouldn't say it's relying on the color because we're relying on the text. It's just an additional affordance that's supposed to help.
It's additional. Okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was the case. As somebody who's only seeing what you're doing with this and how you're working through this for the first time, I am not sure that I understand now that you've explained it, but I think that there's somehow some information missing because of your own knowledge of how it's supposed to work versus someone who's kind of coming in and taking a look for the first time.
Give a suggestion how to make it more clear that what we're really discussing here is just that it basically creates focus on whatever area is being adjusted. So if that's a section that's being adjusted, if it's a block, it would have a different thing. And so that's what we're trying to convey.
That's clear. That's clear. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have another. I was going to show this other issue, but this would actually maybe show it without the patch. So if I add a block here, there's no highlighting. If I add the section, there's no highlighting. If I configure, there's no highlighting. So the difference between what we're adding in this particular issue is everything is the same until you take an action. And this, so for this issue, we're changing what happens when you take an action on a particular part of the page, as far as what we're seeing here on the left, on the particular place.
So the colors match is a cosmetic thing, correct? It's not the main thing is that it gets a border now, and it didn't before. Is that correct, Tim?
Yes. Yeah.
So the information is still in the right sidebar, helping you associate the information in the right sidebar with what it is in the page.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess then the only tricky thing is that we're using that blue solid outline now to mean two different things. One is the active thing, and one is the outline of the page that you can manipulate. And that's a little.
Yeah, that's my main concern too. Is even though we are using the same resource that it's making is taking converting the line into a solid line instead of having the dots. I still have the feeling that you still need a little bit of knowledge of the tool until you actually understand what's going on. So having different colors, probably for people that actually don't see it, it won't make a difference. But for if you are actually seeing the colors, that one of them is black and another is blue, it might be confusing that the status active or focused or something like that, it's different between them. That's my concern. It doesn't mean that it has to be a stopper, but it's my main concern, mainly because on the go ahead.
So you were saying the difference between the gray here and is that the difference you're talking about in the blue here?
Exactly. So now that you've explained, and I've already seen like 3 or 4 times, it makes much more sense. But initially it goes like, oof, why are the colors changing? I understand why, but it's kind of, I would expect, for example, for Claro, all the colors. So there was a discussion about how we made the focus. And from the accessibility team, they suggested to use always the same color. And of course, this is not a focus. It's the active element, so it's another thing. But it's kind of the problem that I'm having here. It doesn't mean that it has to be the same color. It's the struggle that I had to understand.
What was the motivation of changing the color from black to matching? Because the previous week we saw this, every time you highlighted a section, it was black, and that was consistent.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, I'm just backsetting here.
Yeah, I personally liked the black, to be honest. And I mean, I didn't want it to change because we had already got the UX approval. And I feel like we're just going, like, we have the meeting and then we do something else in the issue. So,
but no, what was the motivation though for the change?
I don't know.
I thought we were like, yeah, cool, go for it.
Lowry commented that he thought that this was a nicer design.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what we have here is a question of mental mapping. We have blocks and we have sections, and we have selected and we have unselected. Now, one reasonable map would be selected has a thicker solid border and unselected has a dashed border, and blocks are blue and sections are gray. But that's not exactly the mapping we're using,
right?
Because the only thing that's gray is the add section area.
So if there were like a wrapper around the sections that were also like that's the thing that confuses me, is like the middle part of the page where there's like all of these blue stripes, that where the active block actually is. That's the part that's disorienting, I think, because you have actually, if there's like 3 different blue borders of varying dashedness and heaviness that are all across from each other, that mean that are correspond to different elements on the page.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's my concern. So it's not so consistent. Yeah, go ahead.
So I mean, would it be better? I mean, so there's parts that are outside. I mean, we could change, but aren't necessarily the particular issue. I guess the part that it sounds like is causing difficulty for the change that we're making would maybe be fixed by just always having, no matter what we're highlighting, having a black border or a sort of dark gray or something.
So why the color black instead of all the color blue?
The reason given at the last meeting was that the section, or the, not the, I gotta be careful with my words, the layoutable area outline is blue. So they want to use a different color to signify that this is not what that signifies. But you know, it could be just blue all the time. But I think the color switching sounds like is a no-go. It sounds like there's confusion from people seeing this interface for the first time, and there's also Rain is raising it as an accessibility issue.
I wonder if this is something where the colors on the rest of the page are what's actually wrong here, because I think so. Right now in Head, we don't have the focus at all, right? So it's an iterative improvement to add the focus for the element that's being interacted with, and I think it's still an improvement over not having that focus at all. But what we're seeing in reviewing this is that the areas outside, like the non-active section, like there's already a color problem here with like the blue border are the editable block regions, or the add block regions is the editable UI region. So maybe it's a different part of the design that's actually causing the confusion here that we need to fix.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, which I know is outside of the scope of the issue that's being discussed right now, but I would second exactly what was just raised.
Okay. The only concern with that is that poor issue went around and around and around before we finally settled on that as a happy medium, because we're like, well, it's an existing core pattern, so it doesn't make shit any worse. That was basically the best we could do. Something we had talked about last call was the idea of focus, to do something like bouncing it outside of the bounding box, like to highlight that it's active, but I'm assuming that's hard. But let me see if I can find that screenshot again.
Yeah, I think last week Jacob suggested a drop shadow.
Yeah, or something on that nature. Like,
well, we've gone over a few different options besides the color, and so far we've gotten the feedback that the border is already a pattern that we can use, and that anything else is going to need more.
Yeah, I mean, the last time we were on the call, we were, I think it was like the highlight was the same across everything, but we had the discussion was, okay, and then let's do a follow-up for making it more apparent, like doing the drop shadow or something. I feel like if we add any more to this issue, it will never get done. Because there's already, I don't know. That's my impression of presenting it 3 times.
So would it make sense to everyone if we just went back to what we'd originally decided with the black border for now?
I haven't heard anyone complain about the idea of a black border.
All right.
Yeah, the consistency is always good. So that would be very nice to just,
So the consistency here would be that anytime you're highlighting something, it's always in the same order.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's okay for that to be different things that you're highlighting. Like some are black, having that focus color follow the user around the page is better than trying to represent the underlying differences, because you can like what the options are for the thing that you're editing.
So does anybody? I'm thinking that we so now, or the patch that's currently there, I don't know why this, I don't even know if you can see it on the Hangout, but there's like a slightly different background when you configure something, or when you configure a block. I'm not sure about the other ones. So maybe we should just get rid of that and do that as a follow-up to make it more delineated later.
A very simple and non-fancy solution to the show what you're actively working on problem, and then later we can enhance it with swoopy whooshies and different colors or whatever. But those kind of need more time to gel it. And then
Sorry.
I was going to say, if we put this out in front of people, then we can find out directly from end users what they're finding confusing and not. And that will help design.
So this is just a screenshot of what was there before. So I think that's probably what we're going to go back to. I guess besides this screenshot now has the this screenshot is pre when the dotted border changed. So if you can try to imagine this with a dotted blue border, that is what we're going to go back to. Does that sound good?
That was what the UX team signed off on before. Rain, do you have any experience with that?
No, I think that's correct. I think that's a good plan to just go with that.
Great. Thanks everybody. Sorry.
I think most of your content editors probably won't really care if it's a section or a block, just that they just wanting to know what they're in.
Yeah. Okay. Great. All right. Thanks. So there is another issue. So there's a permissions issue, and I don't have a site for this, but I have a screenshot of the permissions as they are. So we've presented this issue before, and we went over before on the actual permission names and everything, and this is the wording that I got from the UX call before. We have two new things here. One is for every permission where they will be able to edit the layout even if they can't edit for these permissions, the two on the top, where they can edit the article layout even if they can't edit the article, we have this warning that says, warning allows configuring the layout even if they cannot edit the content itself. So we wanted, I think we wanted feedback on that warning. And also there's a new permission. Is it not in the screenshot?
Yeah, it's the next one. The screenshot that's attached to 105.
Okay. So this one. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the most recent screenshot. There's a new permission at the bottom. It says manage inline blocks, which we were, I guess, also wanted feedback on the wording. So the idea here is that you're able to
down under the faces. The thing on the page you're talking about is off.
Yeah, I can't scroll anymore on this because it's taking up my whole browser. I'll just move the whole browser, I guess. Is that better?
Yes, there we go.
Okay. Maybe I can still zoom in. All right, so manage inline blocks. So this would give you permission to create new custom blocks, create and edit new custom blocks within the layout builder. Right now, the permission is solely just tied to you using, anybody who uses the layout can add and edit inline blocks. Maybe, I think, Jess, you were involved in that discussion.
Yeah, so this is, there's several different reasons that we're adding this permission. Part of it is just for security best practices. Right now, the permission to edit layouts, even if you don't have permission to edit the content, would allow you to add new content to the page, which was, I think, an oversight. So we have to add just one additional permission to allow site owners to, and it's just one, it's not one per bundle or anything, it's just one permission on or off for the site that allows you to, in addition to moving blocks around and adding existing blocks, it also allows you to create the custom. Ted, can you show in the UI the adding a custom block so that we can show them what this permission governs? So if Ted clicks create custom block here in the right sidebar, this is what the permission controls. Where'd it go? It basically just the ability to add these custom blocks that we call inline blocks that are attached to the layout from the user interface, so they can add arbitrary new content to a layout that they're editing in addition to whatever. And so I think we just wanted to just make sure that the permission name communicated what the permission is doing and that it makes sense. It's understandable what these three different permissions do.
Yeah, I'd be curious, especially to hear from people who haven't seen this before yet. There's a few of you, I think. Ted, can you pull up the list of permission names again so we can take a look?
I think one thing I noticed right away is that we don't call them inline blocks in the UI, so that's got to change, I think. Also, manage didn't mean anything to me, so we thought that it probably should be something like create and manage or create and edit. But I don't think that anyone would know from that what it means.
Should they be called layout blocks? Create and edit layout blocks? I'm asking because I'm not sure.
Yeah, maybe. Are they used anywhere else right now?
What was that?
I was asking, are inline blocks used in other countries right now?
I mean, I think I know too much what inline blocks are, so to me it makes sense. But I definitely understand the concern.
These are also non-reusable blocks, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Jess.
That's a good way to think of it. One-time block. That's tough.
So I guess there's two issues. Like, we could potentially change this label here, create custom block. But then there's the issue of like, what should the permission be? They should probably reflect the same thing that you see.
Yeah. Can we call it manage custom layout blocks or something like that? That would be.
Yeah.
I don't like custom blocks because that's the exact term that's used in the in the block management page.
But they're the same. They're the same type of blocks.
It is the same. Yeah.
Well, the block management, the custom blocks in block management can be reused multiple times, whereas it sounds like this is only used on the layout itself. What about single use?
I would like to, instead of manage, I'd like create and edit, and then I would like to add in the layout builder. So create and edit blocks for the layout builder or in the layout builder. I mean, yeah. I know that it's permission under the layout builder section, but I'd still like to repeat that.
Yeah, the one thing I agree, and one thing I don't think we should put we have to be careful because also anybody can add a custom block that's in their library but not edit it. So any of the reusable blocks you can add to the layout builder. You just can't add or edit them from the layout builder. So if we say manage custom blocks, that might be confusing because in a sense you can, even without this permission, you can manage some custom blocks in the layout builder, as in add them.
I would mention from a site builder perspective that the term manage tends to be a loaded term. It's like admin. I think of it as having administrative privileges. It may not be obvious that it goes there, especially if one place is, if in the layout builder it's called a custom block, but in permissions, custom block is never referenced. You may need to change calling it custom block in the layout builder if you want to call the permission something else, but they should be aligned in some way that makes them consistent.
I agree with the alignment. I think I feel like we chose that label custom block explicitly though. And I can't remember why anymore.
I think, so we did a UX call about that, and I think one of the reasons was if we label them something else and call them inline blocks and not custom blocks, one, like these custom blocks can be used by core, can be used by contrib in a number of places. And if we choose a different label, it may be very unclear that they're the same types. So you may think that they have different field management and stuff like that. So in the previous UX meeting, we were trying to convey that these are the same types of blocks that you can add in your block library.
Well, then calling it a layout custom block would make the most sense because it's a specific instance of a custom block.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really want to open all of the doors again when we were asked just to review permission names.
That's what I'm saying is call it layout custom block. What I disagree with is anything that uses a different label here than the label that's used elsewhere.
Yeah, I agree with you there that the labels should match. And so you're concerned with manage custom blocks, is that's too similar to what they're called in the reusable blocks section?
That's my objection.
Differentiate that these are one-off or inline or something.
Single use.
Single use.
What if we said create and edit to get away from manage, because you can't, in a sense, you can't manage them like you can manage if you're the administrator of blocks. You can't add fields or whatever. So like create and edit custom blocks, and having it under layout builder would give us some context of this is in the layout builder. But in the description, we could add, a more robust something about, this is for like non-reusable blocks in the layout builder.
Okay, so the permission name would be to create, edit custom blocks within the layout builder section. Then you have a description below that that's like manage, or we're staying away from that word, but okay. A better word than manage the single use blocks within layout builder or something like that. Like that. Pretend I can spell.
Create nested custom blocks. Create nested blocks. So the first line you wrote there, Angie, is
that would be like the permission name.
Yeah.
And then the second line would be the description, kind of like you have. It's kind of it's right there, like that warning: give to trusted users only. Blah blah blah. The permission or the description would instead be some word, the single use blocks within layout builder.
That sounds good. I mean, manage is hard to replace with another word, but
I don't know what to call that.
Manage there
again, and we just friggin' said it in the permission name, so I don't know. I agree though that it being out of the permission name is good because it doesn't imply administrator.
I mean,
so Benji, that's like it's like we're going to define this with the definition of the, you know what I mean? It's like we're going to define this with the words we just used.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you have typed there. With, maybe the and instead of the slash, but yeah.
And I'm fine with manage in the description. It makes more sense than actually implying it's a management permission.
All right.
But I want to pull this whole conversation up a level because I think the original question was the permissions that are here, can people here work out what they're for? And are the descriptions clear and that kind of thing? So we talked the hell out of manage inline blocks. So the answer was no. And then here's some advice on how to make it better.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, is that clear to people? Because I know too much about how this works now. So I already know what the answer is for me. But I'm curious what
As a stodgy old grammarian, I don't like the they with no referent.
The warning allows configuring layout even if, what about allows configuring the layout even if the user cannot?
That would be more consistent with the line below it. So yeah, or the permission name below it. So that would be a small change we can make. Again, I'm not too fussed about the labels as much, more the permission names, because the permission names are an API, but the strings can be changed up until RC. So descriptions and stuff like that, we could do another round of bike shedding on.
So what part can't we change, you're saying?
The permission names themselves ideally match what the screen says and what is in the YAML file. So ideally those would be final at the end of this call. Versus the descriptions underneath them are just strings as far as I know. So
okay.
This may not make any sense, but is the content dash necessary when it's placed under Layout Builder, isn't an article by definition implied to be content?
Yeah, because this could be for users or terms or anything. Maybe I have another screenshot of a previous iteration.
Yeah, we went around on that last time too. Yeah, and we have to word them in kind of that awkward way so that they alphabetize properly.
Yeah, so
yeah.
That's trying to find a screenshot of the user, but I don't know that I have it.
I trust what you've both said.
there could be entity types other than content.
Right. And so if you had a content type of violins for some reason, you'd have like articles, blog posts, users, violins. It would just be very odd. So the idea is group all the content together, group all the products together, group all the other entity types together.
I think that my in a perfect world, I would take the type of thing out and make it an attribute of the field, but we can't do that. That's not this world. So I would ignore what I said.
Perfect world.
All right, and then the problem here is that the third and fourth permissions, those aren't descriptions. Those are just the permission names. It's 3 lines long.
Yeah, we had a hard time coming up with a shorter version of that because well, if you read it, that's what it is. And if you can figure out a shorter way to say that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, the reason we had the warning on the first one is, or first two, my understanding, actually, I wasn't really involved in that. Oh, Jess is not here anymore. So how she relayed it to me was that the idea that we want to be very careful that people understand that you could totally change, like you could remove all the fields from the layout and put whatever you want there. So it kind of gives the power to basically, like, at least from the rendered page output, it's like you can edit fields because you can totally remove them from the page.
Right. I'm not allowed to change the text that says Boston loves the Red Sox, but I am allowed to put in a big Yankees logo.
Well, you could change the text because you could just say, don't render this field.
Right.
No, but I think what you just said is correct. Yeah, you could hide that field and put in a big Yankee logo instead, and then
could we say for the third one, content article configure layout overrides for user editable content items?
Yeah, that would be more brief.
Yeah, I think that's clear. That's good.
How about configure layout overrides, paren, requires edit permission, close paren.
I'm just going to pause. Ted, are you getting what you need out of this conversation?
I mean, well, I mean, we've already discussed, I feel like we had this exact discussion before.
Right. I also feel that way.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I don't want to change it is because one of the things we talked about before was if you say user editable, does that mean there are some things in Drupal that are not user editable at all, meaning you cannot edit them via the UI. And then there's some things that are editable based on your particular user. So that's why I like the wording. I think that's why I like the wording now. The changes since the last UX are simply the warnings on 1 and 2 and the manage inline blocks. I mean, from my perspective, that would be, we got the manage inline blocks, I feel like. There was a suggestion to change the they cannot edit the content itself to if the user cannot edit the content itself. So I feel like I have got what I needed out of the meeting. Now we're talking about stuff we talked about before. So, but I mean, I don't want to say like we can't change the other stuff, but it's, I don't know.
Ignore what I said. That's I thought you were asking for all of these things. I didn't realize you were just asking for the warning. The only comment I would make is as a site builder, I already find permissions in Drupal to be unusable, and adding this much additional text that will be there by default because layout's going into core would be atrocious. But I don't know what a better solution is. It's just really, really hard to use that interface.
Yeah, it won't be there by default in the sense that it's not on, the layout builder is not on in standard.
Okay, so you have to enable. I thought it was coming on in the new one. It's not there by default.
So the other thing to to mention about, even if it is on, the only permissions that will be there once you turn on Layout Builder are the last two here. The other ones are only on when you enable overrides for a particular bundle. So once you turn Layout Builder on, you have the bottom two. Then for every bundle that you say, okay, I want to allow overrides, which you can use Layout Builder only for defaults and not sort of manage display, just for a managed display kind of replacement, but not on individual entities. If you did that in your site and you never allowed overrides, then you'd never have these top 4 permissions.
Then that's a lot more reasonable. So
okay. So I don't know. Feel like I got what I needed.
Okay.
I mean, obviously there's the issue for anybody to. I will.
Yeah, where is the issue where we go to give more specific feedback if we have it?
Go my browser back.
The thing I guess I want as the underpinning here is that Layout Builder is one of the features we're hoping to make it into 8.7 as stable. And if it is going to do that, it needs to be done by Friday, meaning like 3 days from now. So opening up bike shedding of words of things is not sort of a direction I would like to go in if we can help it. Especially since that word tweaking can be done after beta versus a lot of this other stuff can't.
So for people, I guess, for people listening, the issue number is 2914486. Yeah, but I do feel like we have a good feedback on the permissions there.
Yeah, I think the managing line blocks thing's really good. It sounds like a couple people saying that the descriptions are clear. There's some more shortening to be done to the 3rd and 4th permissions so that they're not so much like a fucking novel that you're trying to read in permissions page.
Is the meeting end in 3 minutes?
So the meeting would normally end in 3 minutes. That's what I was going to raise. I did put before, and I changed this in the Drupal core calendar and stuff. I extended that to 90 minutes, but since it's normally an hour, I don't know how many people can stay on for an extra half hour. I can.
And I didn't know if there were other issues. I mean, there is one other issue.
I think Jennifer Hodgson had some stuff and I had some stuff, but we're both like, if we don't have a deadline of Friday, so like I'm fine with you guys continuing. If anybody else had something time pressing, we can certainly get to it too. But
I think these were the only 2 issues that were marked needs UX review. Emily, is that right?
Let me double check real quick. We had.
I closed out my Slack so that I wouldn't get notifications on my screen.
Whoops. We also have Rain on the call, who is from the accessibility team. So if we have accessibility blockers, those could also be reviewed as long as.
Let me look for tags for that.
Okay, so it sounds like enough of us can stick around that, we're going to extend the meeting by 30 minutes. But if you have to drop off, by all means, it's going to be recorded and on YouTube and all the things. So.
Yep, those are the 2 issues that I've got on our list.
I guess while we're waiting, unless this is... How is the one about... Oh, is this it for stable blockers now?
For accessibility.
For
accessibility review.
Okay.
Yeah. And I am not, I mean, I haven't been working on these for a little while. So I'm not sure that I could patch my version and show the state of any of these. I don't have them up now, but I could. Well, highlight one is the one we just talked about.
Yep.
This is a meta thing, so it's nothing to demo particularly. This is the one that Emily had mentioned, but decided we didn't need a UX review in particular. And I don't know much about that issue.
The ARIA group roles to layout builder UI thing. Could we click into that one maybe?
One that's RTBC.
Yeah, it's RTBC. So if it's ready to go, I'd be happy to commit it. But
do you want me to apply the patch? I don't
know if we need to apply the patch. It looks well. Maybe applying the patch would be helpful because then we could take a look at what the resulting output looks like.
Oh.
But Rain, how's your ARIA groups and role label knowledge?
I guess it's fine.
Let me actually look. I'm going to scroll down to see if there's been changes since then. Yeah, so this may be.
If you want, I can take this one and take a look at it offline as well, if that's helpful.
I will put it in.
Yep, that's true.
That would be great. We must have. It is
for the recording, that's 304-1143.
Thanks, Benji.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so that one is RTBC. I'm going to go back to that list. That would be great, Rain, if feedback on that.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead and take a look. Offline.
Layout builder, previews, toggle to be easier, drag and drop.
And isn't there also some big issue about actually using the layout builder without a mouse, or is that already committed?
Oh, so there is the move block one. It's not committed yet. Let me get to my. Okay, so we presented this one before, but I can demo it again. So this entered, and so this is again doesn't have the highlighting issue there. So right now, to move a block, you have to drag and drop it. We added a new way to do it via contextual link. So you hit move, it opens up here. There is a drop down to switch the region. So if I'm still screen sharing, right? You guys see this?
Yep.
Yeah, we can see it.
Right now,
and I think I'm seeing that there is focus on that region selector right now. But it's small. Am I sure that that's what I'm seeing?
Yeah. So that's
okay, great. That's perfect.
jQuery UI. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch to the section 1 region second, and we're getting these names from the what do you call it? From the layout template YAML files. So now if I want, well, I can't move it. Well, so I can move it here. So I move the link ones up here. So now if I show you one where there's something existing in here, so I'm going to move the tags, that same region. So I'm going to go move. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so I saw that the focus went back to the top of the layout builder. So if somebody's working on a really complex layout, that would be, and this is simple enough that it wouldn't cause somebody huge stress, but if they're working on a complex layout, the focus moving back up to the top could be very problematic. So it'd be great if once you move or close it, that instead the focus goes right back to that contextual links, or at least to the block itself that you were on.
Yeah, we have an issue that would do that for everything. So right now, if I go to configure and I say, okay, I'm gonna configure this, it doesn't focus it back. So there is an issue, particularly for focus. Turn focus to, and actually it's, I think maybe there's a layout builder referenced issue there, but this one is generally saying anytime you use the off-canvas dialog to open it up, when you close it, you should return back.
Yeah.
And I think maybe this is the layout builder oriented one. Layout builder. No, it's context. So right, yeah. So it's not a. Yeah. So that's. I think we should solve that. I don't know in this issue or just in general. So anytime you edit something or move it, anytime you affect something via contextual links to move back to it.
And it should be anytime you affect something via contextual links, and anytime that element comes up or you close it, you should definitely go back to wherever you were.
Yeah.
Not to the top. That
Yeah.
I don't know that that's definitely a high priority one as far as usability, but I don't know that it's necessarily something that you should stop production for.
Okay. Because that's also like the settings tray module also uses the off-canvas tray and doesn't do this. So if we had it where the contextual module itself or the off-canvas, the dialogue system, which is what creates the off-canvas, did this automatically, then anybody who used it in that way, we could return focus.
That would be even better.
Okay. So, all right, so let's go back. So I'm going to move the comments field again. So anybody have any other feedback about this particular form?
No, I feel like we looked at that before, and that's a good the usability the accessibility concerns, because it, apart from the issue.
Is Angie Kent out for everybody or just me?
Oh, shoot.
She cut out for me too.
Okay. We missed what you said, Angie. Or maybe we're still missing.
Before? Am I still cutting out? I'll just stop. +1.
Back. No, now you sound good.
Okay. Cool. But yeah, that uses existing core patterns. Sounds like a good way to go.
So those are the UX stuff that I had.
Okay. Let's see. We lost Benji. I do have one more thing I could talk about. But I don't know if it's worth it. I think maybe all right. Let me do this fast.
I'm trying to stop.
And I'll point you guys off to where you can. So I have this here. This is this Drupal 9 readiness tool. We've talked about it before. Except now we got an actual designer to do designy things, and so it looks better than it did before. So this tool, you guys can see my screen, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. So this is a tool intended for, could be either site owners or developers, but mainly to site owner type of people to kind of get an overview of what's left to do on their site before they can move from Drupal 8 to Drupal 9. So you start here, you kind of get some overview information and some tables. You start the full scan. This kicks off like a batch API thingy thing with tables down below that get populated as the scan goes. This is effectively like a GUI wrapper around PHP scan. So it analyzes your code to find out if you have problems with it. You can view, which one is the clickable one? View errors to find out what's going on. So this gives you kind of the output. So there's the file name that it happened in, what line number it happened in. And then if you click these links, you're taken off to like the api.drupal.org page or Drupal get profile, which will tell you information on how to fix the problem. Ideally, we would do this in like in the application, so you don't need to jaunt off somewhere else. Ideally, for contributed modules, we would have, like, you know, more information here, like from the maintainer about whether or not their module's 9 compatible, but we don't have that infrastructure in place currently. So we're just trying to go for what we currently have access to and go from there. So, but yeah, that's basically a thing. On each of these modules, you can choose to view the errors, you can choose to rescan, you can choose an export, which will give you like an HTML export of the report here so that you can work through it in your IDE. And it kind of groups things into things with problems, things with no known problems, and so on. Thoughts? I went through this with Jennifer Hodgden. She did a really good job of tweaking the wording and stuff like that. And I know, Jacob, you've given some feedback on this before. I can't remember what, I think this was still in like a shitty Google Drawings that I did one time state at that point. So this is a little bit fancier, but yeah. If anyone has any feedback, you can find it in the upgrade status queue, and it is issue number 3040307. I have stunned you all into silence. Good stuff.
Hello?
Looks pretty cool.
Oh, yay! People are talking. Yes.
Oh yeah, my audio was cutting out, I guess. You can hear me now, right?
I can hear you now. Yep.
Okay. It looks really clean. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to me. The one thing, so, okay, what metadata are you looking for from contrib modules? Because there's this, like, I know everyone keeps thinking it's a lot of work, but Composer supports metadata, and everyone's moving to Composer.
That's true.
Like, you can add random stuff to that Composer JSON file, and we could solve all this problem of pushing anything we wanted by saying to a maintainer, update your Composer JSON file.
But I think we want this to work without the maintainer having to do anything, ideally.
Of any notification. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think what we were talking about is, you know how you have these fields on here like maintenance status and development status and security advisory coverage? One thing we were talking about is an extra field here somehow that's like Drupal 9 status. It's like frig off, or I'm working on it, or it's done, you know, kind of thing. I don't know what the settings would be like. Gabor, are you still on? If so, you might know more about that side of things, like what we were trying to do on the Drupal.org side.
Yeah, we need to somehow communicate from Drupal.org if you are Drupal 9 compatible, working on Drupal 9 compatibility, but we haven't yet defined on how that's going to work. Like, we want to have 8x module branches to theoretically work on 9 if you're not using deprecated stuff. So we can't really go by the 9x prefix of the module, but we may need to do that eventually, depending on what we have time otherwise. So I think for now, what we are trying to do here as an initial thing is to report the readiness of these contrib modules and encourage you to just keep updating the 8x whatever versions in the hopes that they will hopefully improve the compatibility with 9. We're not picking on web form here, but it's a top module, obviously. So
yeah, we're picking on web form only because people know it. It's not like, Jake, I've got your crap together.
Oh no, I'm not offended. I mean, just to be honest, on a module perspective, I have to tag a new version number or 9.x because I just have enough like compatibility issue. Like, there's deprecated stuff in the code that I have that needs to be taken care of.
Yep.
But I just wanted, just this issue where people keep saying, "Oh, we can't add this metadata or get this information out." I mean, I've seen it enough to be like, if we move the data to Composer JSON, it becomes a lot easier. We just have to start assuming module maintainers are okay editing a Composer JSON file. And then you don't get, I know what the infrastructure is. You have to go on there, update the project page, get the data to serialize out through the API. And we should just piggyback on Composer. It's extra.
What is the key?
Extra. I think it's extra, where you can do whatever you want.
This can be virtually anything.
Yep. So it could be extra, Drupal 9 status. We could just, randomly add that, and it gets, like, there's that whole ticket about adding information about funding or home pages and stuff to the project page, and Composer has that capability. It's a lot easier.
I think the challenge, though, is it sounds like this is arbitrary, meaning if we wanted to parse it out of his tool like this, it would need to be in a standard format of some kind.
It's in Composer JSON. Well, we'd have to specify the property name, but all that data is just sitting there.
Okay, so this is an array, and then within there you can put, Drupal 9 is the key. Equals whatever. Okay.
And even if that data is not sitting on their machine, I think you can go out to Packages and get it.
Okay.
Like it's just by the way, I'm getting into technical detail, but I've been struggling with seeing how hard it is to get extra, how'd you put it, extra metadata for modules into, Drupal the software. And this is it. I mean, I've looked at it a lot and I'm like, so anyway, sorry to digress to that.
No, that's not bad feedback at all.
Well, I like it because we can ask for help. That's really, from a module maintainer perspective, it's like opens up that discussion. So what do we need to communicate to someone when they're looking at the update status report or this is the upgrade status report?
Yeah. Yeah, that certainly helps.
Instead of just a dumb 8.x 120 available, it could be, web form is currently being ported. If you'd like to help expedite it, send Jacob some PayPal money here, or something like that.
or even a link to try out the latest version.
That's what this is for.
Get the latest.
Yeah, we went with get latest release because originally this was a link, but then people were very concerned about sending people off to go get tarballs when their site's a composer site and fucking that all up and that. So we went with get latest release, then that will take you to a release node of whatever the latest release is. So, and then the release node would have the information about, I believe, it doesn't do this for core, but I'm pretty sure on contrib releases. Sorry to continually pick on your module.
No. The release notes have a lot of potential.
Install with Composer or the download buttons. They have both.
And we could encourage people to add more notes to their release notes about their upgrade status. I mean, this is the place to communicate that, Tim.
This would be the place. Yeah, this would be the place on Drupal.org anyway to communicate that.
Yeah.
I don't know if Composer also has a mechanism for that, but. So it could be like compatibility fixes from Drupal 9, blah, 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 or something like that.
Well, change records, yeah. I mean, this is a minor release note, but yeah, people.
Yeah, I think we need a way to. So I think the Composer JSON idea is good for having some data for the modules that you already have, the versions that you already have. I don't know what kind of access we have from Drupal to potential Composer updates that you don't yet have.
I think you can read it. I think you can go out to packages. Just the same way that we used, the update module goes out to Drupal.org. I think packages provides endpoints that we can get. So that would be a way to kind of push the future version.
Yeah, we would need to write like a parallel update status kind of thing that communicates with packages from Drupal.
Yeah.
All right, so thinking way back from the implementation of the thing.
Yeah.
Back on the user interface of the thing. Just for the UX call and not the.
Yeah.
However,
it makes a lot of sense. Yeah, but what you have here makes a lot of sense. It's really like we're bike shedding this. What other metadata information could we add to this to help?
Yeah, I think I agree with Jacob a lot that we need to use this UI to guide people in terms of how to best help contrib maintainers. And different maintainers, different projects will have different processes and different requirements and different ways you can help. Like some will have issues, some will have a meta issue, some will be working on stuff and they would welcome some funding. Some will, I don't know, organize a sprint next week or whatever, and we can surface that information.
So we would do that here.
And help people engage.
Yeah.
And we should at least direct people to the place where they can engage. And we don't have a standard way to do that. So we'll need to figure out sooner or later some way to help.
There is
people engage.
Tracker was how we did this from 7 to 8 for varying levels of whatever. But this project still exists. I still see issues getting bumped in it every now and then. But it's nice because if you take like a module like ACL, it parses the messages and it puts a string on the project page about the thing. So we could continue to use this queue as the means of explaining the Drupal 9 statuses. I just have to create a 9 version to be selected here.
Mm.
But that could work.
We can give people, To the release notes, we can give people better boilerplates for their release notes, because I mean they could put something at the top of every release note.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm more and more going in that direction.
I was just pointing out some of these had this is not a good example, but some of them like have links to roadmaps, some of them have links to whatever. Like this was kind of like an initiative we started back in the day.
I think it was really successful. I want to be like outside of web form, all the stuff because I was an early adopter of Drupal 8, these made huge difference.
Yeah, cool.
Because what happened was people then started aggregating all those issues that were floating out there into one ticket.
Yeah, that
and
was
like the craziness that happened on GitHub, where people were doing a lot of code on GitHub, it helped that because people would then go back to the main ticket. It made a huge. Yeah, I mean, this is worth considering because you got to ask around, but I felt this made a big difference. It basically created a discussion, a central discussion board for every module. And for D9, this would help.
Okay. Okay. Those are points to take under consideration. But I think the need has been identified that that in like V2 of this or whatever, somehow we need to give people a little bit more of a bone on how to resolve their contrib issues by themselves. So whether it's linking them to the issue in the contrib tracker project or in the project that's like, this is where Drupal 9 is happening. That would be the ideal thing to do, along with here's what support is needed for the maintainer. I get a little nervous about explaining that kind of stuff in the application. Like I'd rather link to an issue that has that, you know?
Well, that's where, just go with the contrib tracker. Like the status, like here's a ticket, here's the status. And what's great about the ticket is that people will build that out as needed.
Yeah. And there were, I don't know if there are anymore because we're like 4 years after Drupal 8 came out now, but there were at least at the time modules, like rules would be a good one. That's like, if you want to help expedite this, we're accepting money over here. Oh, well, that's not close fix. That's fine. So anyway, just a thought that was a mechanism we used before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this initiative is seeking funding to expedite. So this being an issue, I don't have a problem with this being displayed in the interface, actively asking people from their Drupal site to give money. No. I don't know.
Just the status. This is the port status of Drupal 9, and that's it. And let the maintainers decide how they want to deal with this page. Yeah. That's really cool.
Right. But then it sounds like no more real, like, oh my God, don't do that on the interface. So that's great. Maybe we've gotten all the issues kind of hammered out for now. I know, Gabor, you're going to be giving like a Acquia webinar on this tomorrow, or it's going to include this. It's on Drupal 9 in general. And then I think this will be also showed off at DrupalCon during the Dries note. And then I think we're also going to try and do a BOF or something, because the goal is to try and get like a prototype of this actually working by DrupalCon so people could try it. And
yeah, we're working on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess if you have feedback further than this, 304-0307 is the place to go. So, and that is an upgrade status queue. So, okay, thank you. How do I stop screen sharing this? Yeah. All right, I meant that to be quick. It was actually 20 minutes, I'm sorry. But thank you so much, everybody who stuck around, and we'll talk again next week.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye. Thanks for letting me join.
Thank you.